Stephen Curreno right here with the legendary Eddie Hearn. Talking again, man, at least it didn't take 2.5 hours this time, right?
No, yeah. We're still, well, it's been a long day, but we're still going.
Yeah, definitely. Man, excited to see this fight. Thank you, for putting this fight on. Regis Prograde versus Maurice Hooker.
Had fans who were sitting in a room saying, tell me a fight at 140 you'd like to make. I think, of course, you got Ramirez against Josh Taylor, but I think Prograde against Hooker is a fight that a lot of the fans would say that's a great fight. And sometimes great fights seem obvious, but are so difficult to make. Regis Prograde actually come to the press conference of Mikey Garcia to kind of crash it. And I sort of said to him, you pipe down. Why don't you fight Maurice Hooker? And he went, I'll fight Maurice Hooker. And I thought, oh, shit. So then I went over and I spoke to Dino Duva, and he went, yeah, we're up for that fight. And it's very unusual for a fighter like that in Regis Prograde to come off a fight of the year contender in a unification fight and go straight back into a 50-50. Back-to-back losses would really affect his career. But isn't it great for the sport? And I think fans respect that. Tune-up fights, there are too many tune-up fights in boxing. Sometimes fighters deserve a tune-up fight. I mean, you've got Josh Taylor and Ramirez now basically having 2 tune-up fights. But you can come irrelevant very quickly by having tune-up fights, And these guys are making sure they stay relevant. And there is an argument to say, although they won't win a world title out of this fight, they will become as relevant, perhaps, as Ramirez and Taylor if they can win in a fight of the year contender.
I was just going to say, I feel like the winner of this fight kind of puts themselves right back in
belts are important, but so is having great fights, so is entertaining the public. And if this is the fight that I think it will be, you're going to see very quickly the winner of this fight get lauded into fights like Mikey Garcia, maybe moving up to 47, fighting Terence Crawford. Well, not if it's Mo, but other champions at 47. So I think these guys, the best thing to say about these guys is they're taking it by, as we say in the UK, taking it by the bollocks and just going for it and saying, no, I'm going to make myself relevant and I'm going to force the issue in the division.
Is that like, I feel like it's refreshing to me, but I feel as a promoter refreshing when fighters are like, yeah, let's do it.
We get too much stick because people don't realise we want good fights. Good fights deliver ratings. Good fights put bums on seats. We don't want to give tune-up fights, but sometimes we're dealing with managers and people like David Higgins, who want to protect their fighter and just want to give them, but that's a manager's job. If you're in a really, really tough fight, the manager's job is to go to the promoter and get him an easier fight for as much money as possible. So anytime there's a fighter that says, I want continuously big fights for as much money as possible, the money's there. If you're willing to take the proper fights, the money is there. In fact, we'd rather spend more money in tough fights than less money in tune-up fights. They do nothing for anybody other than an easy touch for the fighter, and sometimes they deserve it. But fewer the better, and this is a great example of 2 guys that are avoiding tune-up fights to have a great 50-50.
Let's talk about Mark Castro, new signing. What was it about him that kind of got your attention? What was it that kind of made you the push to get him? And what can we expect to see from him?
Well, I think when we came into America, whilst you always want to sign the superstars, you've also got to build from the bottom. And as we've done in the UK, it was very important to us to sign the best young talent that we could. And when you look at our stable right now, we are unrivaled in terms of American young stars. Amo Austin Williams, Diego Pacheco, Espino on this card, Ray Ford, Ofer Jones, Nikita Ababi, Reshat Mati, probably forgotten some, and now Mark Castro as well. These are the top high-end guys. But Mark Castro was the guy, when I came into America, everyone went, you've got to get Castro. Castro's the one. And I've been working hard on him. He is the Ryan Garcia, he is the Devin Haney, he is one of those guys. He's a 17-time national champion, 2-time amateur champion of the world. He's been to Russia, he's been every other country winning major tournaments. He's 20 years of age. He looks $1 million. He's sponsored by Gucci already. He's just like, he's got it all. And he's going to have a massive American fan base, a massive Mexican fan base, and now he has a global promotional company that will box him in all the key territories around the world. And we're the only promotional company right now who has individual broadcast deals in important territories. Everyone else has got maybe a relationship where you can put someone on a show. We put them on our shows. So there's no excuse for this young man not to get to the top. The only person that can stop him is him. He will have a road built out for him to make sure he can become a pound-for-pound great. If he's good enough, he'll do it. If he's not, he won't. But at least he can go to the gym. There's too many dogs in this game that are promised the world, don't pay fighters, make them wait 6-7 months to get paid. With us, we're as solid as they come. I deliver everything I'm going to say. You get paid on the dot, on the dime, the full amount, no messing around, and we give you every chance to succeed. And he's got it in front of him now.
I'm sure it's refreshing with fighters that is true with you, that they actually you're true to your word.
But you get to box anywhere you want, anywhere in the world, as often as possible. So the only thing that's going to stop you is you.
Right. That's it.
So get on with it. And any athlete, to know that is important. There's nothing there's so many great fighters that have never become great fighters because they've been mismanaged or mispromoted or made a bad decision. Right. So I like to think that we've got the game plan and the strategy, as we've shown with Anthony Joshua, from the debut to unified world champion, to Callum Smith from the debut to world champion, Ring Magazine champion, Cal Yafai from the debut to world champion, Luke Campbell from Olympic gold to world championship. We've got the model in place and we know what we're doing. And when you've got someone as talented as Castro, the job's quite easy.
The proof's in the pudding, man, and you just kind of said it. You mentioned Anthony Joshua. Obviously, Fury looked dominating against Wilder this past weekend. You've talked about AJ Fury in the past. I guess how likely is that fans can see that? Obviously, AJ has that rematch clause, kind of, that seems like he's Fury. Wilder. Yeah, there we go. He's enacting right away. How close is that fight in reality?
I had a good chat with Bob Arum the other night. Everyone wants, people want to make as much money as possible. And the biggest fight out there right now is AJ against Fury. So they'd love to make that fight happen. There's a lot of navigation that needs to take place. Our job now is to get the Pulev fight signed. And if there's any manoeuvrability with Top Rank over the next couple of weeks and an AJ Fury fight is possible, we'd love to go straight into that. If they're going to rematch, we hope it happens in July. So we don't have to wait because Dylan White is also mandatory next year. You've got a WBO mandatory for Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. If that belt could become vacant, if we have to fight, anything can happen. So we've just got to worry about ourselves, have a decent plan for us. We'll make it very clear, AJ, the fight he wants is Tyson Fury. And it's not even Tyson Fury, it's just the belt. When Deontay Wilder had the belt, that was the fight that AJ wanted. But now Tyson Fury's the man, and he wants to try and get that.
Do you feel that's a 50-50 fight going into it as far as like talent-wise?
I think, look, Fury's proved himself to be incredibly awkward. I think the most impressive thing about his victory was that he did something that I didn't think he could do. And when you do that, it's a bit like when AJ beat Ruiz in the second fight. I wasn't sure he could do that, but he had to do that to win that fight in a way that was, as commanding as possible. For Fury, I didn't think, when I heard that he was going to walk him down and be aggressive and try and stop him, I thought it was a joke. Right. So that was the most impressive thing about the performance. And Tyson Fury is a quality heavyweight. He's going to be very tough to beat. I just believe we've got the man to beat him.
Do you feel that the third fight with Wilder and Fury do you feel Tyson kind of wins that for sure?
Or? Look, maybe it won't happen. You saw disappointing pay-per-view numbers for the second fight. The third fight, the pay-per-view numbers are going to be probably halved. Because he's been 19 rounds now, and Wilder's probably won 3 rounds. 2 of those were because of a knockdown. So there's nothing that says Wilder can win another fight, but he does have power. But he's going to take a lot to come back from that defeat because he was manhandled and he was bashed up.
I believe I saw a tweet earlier today. Usyk is fighting Chisora. Is that like
it's not done, but that's a very strong possibility for May in the UK. It's a great fight, great heavyweight fight, and hopefully we can get that over the line next week.
Is Usyk, that's kind of another issue, right? Because he's a mandatory as well.
Yeah, so with the rotation system, the IBF's first, then the WBO. So if Joshua fights Pulev, he has to fight Usyk next, unless a deal can be made where he waits for the Fury fight, or we have to vacate the WBO belt, and all the other belts are on the line. But it'd be great to be an undisputed fight.
Believe Ruiz said yesterday on PBC, the show.
Did you see Ruiz's Instagram last night?
I did. What did you think about that?
Doing shots, and he was a very happy man going around his house. He was saying, "Oh, this is hard work and dedication, baby," with his shots. He was he'd had a few. I would like to say I absolutely love Andy Ruiz. I love him because, people will say, "Oh, he's not dedicated, he's this, he's that." But Andy Ruiz has got a good heart and he's got a lot of fight in him. And I can't wait for Andy Ruiz to come back, and if he can get on it, the fights, you've seen him in great fights with AJ, great fight with Joseph Parker. The fights between Ruiz and Wilder. Like, watching Wilder the other night, Ruiz would tear Wilder to pieces. Right, he's got a great chin, he's got fast hands, he's relentless, he's going to back you up. Ruiz against Luis Ortiz, Ruiz against Dillian White. These are great, great fights, and yeah, excited to see him.
What's kind of the map for Andy Ruiz to get that third fight with AJ? What would you think? What's kind of the?
It's not a fight right now that, you know, I think anyone's calling for, but I think in the division, if people are staying active and getting good wins, if Ruiz started knocking people out, then the AJ3 fight becomes exciting. You know, again, AJ just beat him every round. We know that Ruiz won the first fight, but AJ was winning the fight and dominating it till that happened. So I think the second fight was conclusive enough to say that Andy Ruiz needs a couple of big wins to get that fight again. But I think you're going to see Andy Ruiz in great fights.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking forward to it. Last subject, man, I want to talk to you about Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo. How close are we? Is Callum Smith kind of
they're both in the mix, and Golden Boy know the number for both guys, and it's just up to them, I guess, to choose which way they want to go.
Do you feel they're leaning one way or the other with either guy?
They've been leaning, then they've leant the other way, then they've gone the other way. So I think ultimately it'll be down to Canelo, you know, and who he wants to fight.
Do you feel that 168 is where Canelo's going to end up landing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for him to make 60 after fighting at 75. I think 68 is where you're going to see him.
And lastly, Demetrius Andrade, what's next for him? Obviously, everyone's talking for Charlo.
Billy Joe doesn't get the fight. I think you'll see Billy Joe Saunders against Demetrius Andrade. You've got Danny Jacobs, you've got Callum Smith. You could see Demetrius move to 168. We would love the Charlo fight, but you know,
all of us would.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like, you know, with that fight, I spoke to the BBC and just said, like, Charlo's doing nothing, and we're struggling to get Demetrius a big fight. Wouldn't it? We'll do it on Fox if you want. You know, wouldn't it make sense? But no one really wants to fight Demetrius because he's really, really good.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Eddie Hearn, appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button so you can get notified every time we upload a new video. And we also have a free app available on iTunes and Google Play, so make sure you go and download that. Bye Fight fans.